I just wanted to talk to you about the mics that I use, namely the Blows Me Away Greg Heumann. Well, this is the 57. I'm going to show you two models. So I've got two. This is a 57 with the bulletizer thing, for lack of a better word, hood. And then a 58 that's been, both of these have been customized by Greg. And I'll just talk a bit about the differences. So the first mic I got, these are both very old. I've had them for quite a while now. I think I bought the 58 first. First thing you notice about his mics is he takes the standard stick on it and cuts them down. And I also learned years ago that Greg makes all these things by hand, which is very cool. So first of all, it's shorter in your hand. It's much shorter, and there's less movement with. If anybody, I don't know if anybody else has gone through this, but with stick mics, especially longer ones, and you got a connector on there, shaking them back and forth. Eventually, this starts to get loose. That doesn't happen on this. This has been not only used for many years, vigorously, I will say. But it's also been in and out of my gear bag with crap piled on top of it and everything else. Sorry, Greg. I wasn't supposed to tell you all that. And it's held up perfectly. The volume control is a great thing. I mean, I think you need, for most amps at least, or 90% of them out there, an on-off switch for sure. But now that I've had an actual volume control, I've come to rely on that. I'll set it up so that it sounds great at full volume for hard solos and things. But there's a ton of times where I'm playing where I just want to back it off a tiny bit when it's a quieter song. I don't want to have to adjust anything else. I just back that off a bit. You don't really lose anything other than just a slight bit of volume. And so that's the same on both of these. This is easy to hold. The 58 is a very clean microphone. The input, I'm not far from any kind of technician, so I'm not going to even attempt to explain why all this is. But the 58 plugged into an amp compared to the 57 is a way lower volume, not way lower, but noticeably lower volume, lower input. And in general, the end result is it's a cleaner sounding mic going into the same amp with however you adjust it. So whatever volume you're trying to reach, if you were to compare it to a 57, you would ultimately get, at the same volume, a cleaner sound with this. And that's desirable for depending on the style of music you're playing. I play a variety of styles, from straight up blues and funk and stuff to country, even some bluegrassy things. So this was a good choice for me in certain situations. The one I kind of like these days, and my taste changed over the years. I get tired of something. I want to try something different. This is a regular 57, and it's got the bulletizer attachment, which is a brilliant idea. I always loved 57s. But I don't know how guys, I see people play them all the time without the bulletizer, but you're holding quite a delicate end piece on the mic. And I found two things. One, it was noisy because your hand is on it and your harp is tapping on it. Very noisy. But also after a bit of playing, and maybe it's just me, but the head would start to get loose, which made it more noisy and vulnerable to breaking, which they did. I've seen people years ago, I'm talking 30, 40 years ago, putting wire around, and soldering it or taping it on, some kind of a frame around it to make it easier to not do that. And Greg's bulletizer solves that problem perfectly. And I'm currently using it's a Turner Shell custom bullet mic with an old Shure element, 60 Shure element in it. And this actually has more bottom end than the bullet mic does. There's other characteristics I like about the bullet. This has got a slightly different sound to it. Every mic has a little different sound, and that's it. There isn't one mic that's best. They're all a little different. depending on the amp you use, depending on the style of playing, and depending on what you want it to do. There's things about certain mics that I like what they do, and I play them for that purpose, and there's other ones that do something different, and I sometimes miss that, you know. It's also chopped down the same way, so short. The other option that I got was this screw-on connector. I don't know the name of these, but I actually prefer this because I can take a regular patch cable that a guitar player would use or anybody would use, plug that in. It's in there quite firmly, and you know, will pull out if you yank on it, but won't fall out. And if, you know, as careful as I am with expensive cables and things like that, I do step on them, and they do get trod on eventually, and they break eventually. If this breaks, I can just use another patch cord that I'll have a spare cord with. So that's important for me, because that's many times I've been on stage and I start to hear the crackle in the middle of the set. And if you don't have a way to, you know, reconnect your mic, you're screwed. So check out Greg Heumann and his website, blowsmeaway.com. He's extremely knowledgeable, not just with these mics, but about many things. He's given me advice on many things, and takes a lot of pride in his work and great service as well, and making sure that if there's any issues that he takes care of it. Take a look. You'll love it. Thanks.